and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I'm April Atmansky, and I'm here today with...
Justin DeClue.
And Colin Connery.
Oh, Colin Connery.
Sean Connery isn't dead, just like Elvis.
That's great. That was a pretty good impression, Colin.
Thanks.
Too soon.
It may be a little too soon, but it's okay. We finally got to our next listener request episode.
No!
I think it was June or July. We did the last one.
I always dread these things.
I know, but we got a very good request this week from a person named Riza, might be Riza.
The RZA on the Wu-Tang Clan?
The Wu-Tang Clan.
RYZA. So I'm not sure.
That's the
like,
Ryza.
I got it, yeah. Nike.
From the Poo-Tang Clan.
Could be Riza. I don't know. Anyway, they requested, in tribute to Sean Connery, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Is it pronounced like that?
LXG for fans.
LXG. Oh my God.
I don't know anyone. Did
I think
anyone
that
really
said on
call
the
it
posters.
LXG?
Yeah,
it was
I was trying to explain the LXG to April, but yeah.
It's confusing me. Although I do think I remember seeing that on the poster.
Oh, yeah. It's an easier way. I can understand because, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is like a mouthful and, put it on a poster. You want something that's gonna sing, baby, like T2 and ID4.
ID4.
LXG.
LXG. Well, it just sounds like a size to me. Like I'll take a sweatshirt in LXG.
It sounds like
and that means you're gonna get it to the extreme.
It sounds like a dietary supplement or something.
Yes.
Oh man, I gotta just worked out. I gotta have some LXG.
So were you guys excited for this movie coming out in 2003?
I was kind of curious, but I'd read the comic book. I've got the first 2 volumes here.
And when you saw the movie, you're like, wait a minute.
Yes,
Dr.
exactly.
Jekyll or Mr. Hyde doesn't sexually assault the Invisible Man in the movie. This isn't true life. Yeah.
He does that in the comic?
He does.
Yeah, he rapes him to death.
What?
It's actually an amazing
This is
scene.
not what I signed up for.
It's a very R-rated comic book.
Yeah.
Alan Moore, how could you?
Have you never read anything by Alan Moore?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
No, don't say anything bad about him. He'll hex you.
Yeah, he'll hex you.
I don't read comic books. I only read Sailor
April
Moon
can't
mangas.
read.
I've got them here. They're actually really good. This second volume is really good. That's
The second one. Beware if you want to traverse into all the spin-offs that he did. Like, there's a Daughter of Nemo spin-off. There's 3 volumes of that. Gets really weird. There's like a decade series where a whole bunch of crazy characters come into play.
Oh, cool.
Well, if people don't know, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is
LXG.
It's like a monster mash, but everyone is literary characters.
yes.
Let's
Public
be specific.
domain.
Yeah, public domain literary characters. So you got all your favorites. The Invisible Man. Who doesn't love the Invisible Man? Dorian Gray. Oh, okay. Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
Well, yeah. I mean, Alan Moore described it as Justice League in Victorian England.
It's a neat idea, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
But it's so funny how similar this movie is to Van Helsing that we did last week.
This is crazy.
Only it's so much better.
Yeah, this was
so much better.
Watching this, I'm like, whatever. It's not a. If I was a fan of the comic book and I saw this, obviously I would be livid and like, what the fuck is this? Kids movie sort of thing. But having that little break and comparing it to Van Helsing, which is very similar, it's so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
I think they're on the same level, but I do really enjoy LXG quite a bit. I feel that LXG is very colorless. Like it's. Did you guys find it was drab looking?
No.
Wait, did you not have your TV on black and white? You
That's
said
right.
that.
Yeah. No, I switched it because it looked so drab.
That's so weird.
But LXG is a movie that I've always liked since the day I saw it. Probably not in theaters. I may have gotten a cam version that somebody gave to me at school.
Why do you say it like that?
Because Dracula gave it to me. That's why. And I was a fan of Blade, so I definitely wanted to see the follow-up of Steve Norrington.
Yeah.
Well,
so
after the last minute, which I had already seen. his.
So you saw his other movies?
Oh yeah.
Well, he only made one.
No,
he made
there's
two more.
other
He made
movies.
Death Machine and The
What?
Last Minute, which is his version of Oliver Twist. But what if it was punk and kind of in the future?
Wait, so that was done after
It was
League?
made between Blade
No.
and A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, The Last Minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this movie has, I don't know, the dubious honor of being the last movie that Sean Connery ever did, last live action movie he ever did, and,
Yeah, don't forget Sir Billy.
and the last movie that Stephen Norrington ever did. They
Yeah,
had such a contentious working relationship; they fucking hated one another.
That's so weird. You think that one of them would be like, I drove you out of the business, but no, they both quit the
Sean Connery was
business.
like, "Fuck off! I'm retiring. This is bullshit." And then Steve Norrington said, "I will never work on another movie again."
Did Sean Connery tell him, like, I will haunt you on every set?
if you ever come back.
He's like,
we'll-
I will not act because I want to save my time so I can haunt you if you ever try to direct again.
It's like when anybody asks me why I retired, I'll tell them because of Stephen Norrington. I'll blame it on you.
He strikes me as a spiteful man. So
Well, I
he's-
think he was executive producer on this movie. So
Sean
He
Connery?
was?
Yeah, he
Even though
was.
that he admitted, he's like, I have no idea what this is about.
yeah, so basically he took the movie because he passed up Lord of the Rings and The Matrix because he didn't understand the scripts. And they went on to be big hits. And then when this script came along, he didn't understand it. So he said, well, I'm going to get ahead of this one.
he probably thought it was going to be like the Avengers. you
Well, he
know?
didn't know. He didn't. He has no
He'd be like,
concept.
the Avengers? I've been in the Avengers.
Yeah, he was already
It
in
was
that.
terrible.
The good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wanted to get ahead of the game, and he's like, "Well, I don't understand it, so this is probably going to be a big hit." So yeah, he was executive producer, so he was trying to call a lot of the shots on set, and I think Norrington, it's like his, I don't know, second big movie anyway.
Well, Blade was pretty big. Blade probably bigger than this, really.
Yeah, I mean,
Not as far as budget goes. I think Blade was an under the radar production. It was like Marvel just making a quick movie. It definitely didn't have a big budget, but it was a hit when it came out, especially on video.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it inspired two sequels.
But
Right?
I think I also read that he hated the big budget because the production was like breathing down his neck.
Yeah, he said he
so-
didn't like to have. He also worked with producer Don Murphy, who was like very like involved and all over the place. So he didn't like that
very
either.
hands-on.
Yeah, this is
mean,
the
I
guy who
get
did
it.
like all the Transformers movies.
Oh, okay.
But really, this movie turned out pretty good. It's like hated by critics a lot. And I was like, it's not that bad. So I had to actually go on Rotten Tomatoes and look up some old and new reviews about why it's bad. And a lot of them say there's too many stories. It's confusing.
There's a
that
few.
It's anticlimactic. They don't like the
Anticlimactic?
villain. I know. Things that I don't necessarily agree with, but I can understand.
I can understand, like Colin said, that what if it was a real adaptation? If it was a real adaptation of the comic, it should be shot on video and it should air on the BBC. Like, that's the pace of the comic book. It's very slow. It's not really an action comic.
No, not at all. And I don't think they say this is loosely based on the first volume of the comic books. I don't really remember any
So
of this
the
from the movie.
script had Dr. Fu Manchu, who's the villain in the comic.
Okay.
But they had to change it due to rights issues.
Right. And then they couldn't get the rights to the Invisible Man, so they had to rename him and make him
Yeah, what's his name in this?
Rodney Skinner.
Skinner. Yes.
And I think it was Griffith and the Invisible Man.
Skinner?
Yeah. So they made him that he was an Invisible Man, that he had just stolen the formula.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like, whatever. Okay.
But everyone else is public domain.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
At a certain point, it gets to be like, oh my god, now the Moby Dick guy is here, and now this guy is
Ishmael.
here, where it's just like everybody. But at first, I was kind of like, that's kind of fun that all these characters are together. Like, it's
Is
cheesy.
it? Are you
Well,
so excited to see all these your favorite characters?
Well, I didn't know Captain Nemo was in this.
Yeah.
and I was like, I think he might be one of my favorite
Yeah,
characters.
I think Captain Nemo is the best by far.
The only book out of all of these, I think, that I've read is Dracula. I don't think I've read any. I mean, was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea Captain Nemo?
yes.
I read like an abridged version for children of that.
I'm
And
When
gonna
you were
say that
27.
You didn't read it then.
yeah, and I think that's it. Alan Quatermain
Yeah.
is Sean Connery, and
Yes,
he.
this is a character that does not get read at all anymore. Those are old, musty
They're
Victorian
really old.
novels.
Yeah, they're back in like the Conan. They were around the same time, weren't they?
No.
King Solomon's Mines.
Yeah, 1885.
Oh, shit.
King Solomon's Mine, so way before Conan.
Oh crap! All right, never mind.
Unless people
Well,
are like, I love those Indiana Jones ripoffs that Canon Films made. Those Alan
the
Quatermain pictures.
The Richard Chamberlain.
Yeah,
films.
those are
That's right.
really what I know of Alan Quatermain are those two movies, and I haven't even seen them. I've just
Yeah.
seen the clips from them in that documentary.
I think even Patrick Swayze played Alan Quatermain in like King Solomon's Mines. I think.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, there was like a TV movie. I want to say.
Well, he could do it, I guess.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, at a certain point, the character just becomes Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like the Pope hero, right? So, yeah, he did. Patrick Swayze in a 2004 Hallmark Channel movie.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Hallmark Channel, the mark of quality.
Oh.
But another thing that's very similar to this movie that with Van Helsing is that it's also like a James Bond parody, kind of, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's more about assembling a team and not about like going
That's in
on
the
a
comics.
mission.
There's a character named M.
Yeah, exactly.
There is M, and there's Campion Bond.
Yes,
Who
I
reports
think
to
they had
M,
get
and that's supposed
rid
to
of.
be one of Bond's like predecessors, or one like his great
Well, that was a
grandfather or something.
book. Bond was a book.
Yes.
So he's allowed to be in
Yes.
this.
Are you sure, April? Have you read this book?
I'm not. Someone Broccoli wrote it.
Albert. No, that
No,
was
no.
Ian Fleming.
Ian Fleming.
Albert Broccoli and Cubby Broccoli were the producers
Cubby
of the films.
Broccoli.
Yeah,
My parents hated me.
Cubby Broccoli. I think it was a nickname. I think it was a
Because
great
he
story.
loves cubby holes, obviously.
There's a story about never mind. I won't tell.
Do you
it.
know what my favorite nickname ever? It's the rapper Sticky Fingers, who did star in the Blade TV series.
Really?
Yep. And do you know why his name was Sticky Fingers?
Why?
Because he loved honey, and he couldn't get his hand out of that honey pot.
Okay. Well,
He had an accident with some industrial glue when he was a child. They call him Sticky Fingers.
So
like
the special effects in this movie are actually great. There are some scenes that are
You were
not
complaining
so
about
good.
them nonstop.
And it wasn't not nonstop, but I have to point out when they look bad. I
Yeah.
can't help it. It's in my
Whoa,
nature.
let's jump in the movie, and we'll go the Colin route and describe every scene. How does it start, Colin?
Shut up. Yeah, we need some
Give us
structure,
a
or else we're
loose-
just going to be
give us-
dancing around.
Well, this scene is
I love dancing.
This is like Van Helsing, but it's not like action scene after action scene. There are this regular scenes.
That's what I appreciated, and I think I liked it more because I've seen it before, but I think I liked it more this time because I'm coming right off of Van Helsing, and I found that I could not take that movie in
As
large
Colin
doses.
does every week, he watches the movie we watched the previous week before he watches the new one.
You know, that Birdemic ain't so bad compared to Van Helsing.
Pandemic coming out next week.
But yeah, so this movie, there's quite a dynamic shift in the league because in the comics, it's Mina Harker who is actually runs the league. She's the one that recruits all the members. And Alan Quatermain is just like this emaciated opium addict. They kind of find him like in some opium den.
So
and then
who do
they-
you think gave the note? Because I could promise you the first script followed the comic fairly closely. But they were
Sean-
like, you can't have a woman leading the
It's
team.
Sean
Oh, it's Connery.
Sean
He's like,
Connery.
I'm the lead. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not reporting to some woman.
And didn't
Yeah.
you say that the Tom Sawyer is not even in the comic?
No.
No.
That was a studio note, and the producer was like, that's the stupidest note.
Well, I don't know if you guys know, but for all you probably females, not necessarily out there who were teenagers around this time, Shane West was a teen heartthrob.
I've never even heard
And
of
that's
him.
what. So he was in a movie which I guarantee you've never heard of called A Walk to Remember, and Mandy
I remember
Moore.
A Walk to Remember.
I remember
Right,
that.
Mandy
by the
Moore
guy who-
Yeah.
has cancer and
That was
dies.
Wasn't that what
Spoilers.
it Mandy
Yeah, yeah.
Moore's
And it
first
ends with him
films?
killing her. He's like, here's your walk to remember.
But I looked it up, and so that was like that was big with the teen demographic, and this was like the next big movie after that.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then after that, I think that he was on ER for like 100 episodes, and so he's done TV in it. But
Whoa, he was also in Dracula. He played JT.
Dracula
What?
2000.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
still haven't
God.
seen. I still haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either.
But yeah, he was
we'll
definitely
do
hired.
the 3 movies.
He was
was a-
hired to
yeah.
get the female demographic.
It was a studio note because there were so many British characters. They felt that Americans would feel left out, and they wanted an American character to kind of anchor, because Americans can't relate to British people.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of like redoing Indiana Jones 3. Like, I got to have a young guy to play
4.
off of.
If I were the writer, I'd be like, screw you. But as a viewer, it's fun to have like the brash American there, like doing a bunch of like cocky stuff, while Quartermain is the one that's in control the entire time.
Yeah, and Shane West is not even doing an old-timey accent at all. He sounds like he's from today, but that's okay. He's not
What's
a
an
great
old-timey accent? What would be an oldtimey
Well,
Tom
like,
Sawyer
you know,
accent?
Oh, no.
Hello, I'm
Gee
Tom
Willikers, sir. They've got we gotta
Is he
get
Jimmy
going.
Olsen in a Superman series?
Okay, before we move on,
Yes.
who is Tom Sawyer? What happens in the book? Is he in Huckleberry Finn?
Huckleberry Finn.
So
Yeah.
what is that story?
I don't know. I've never read
Is
it.
Tom Sawyer the troublemaker? I can never remember if it's Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer.
I
We're
can't remember.
Canadian. We're not allowed to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah,
Well-
they make us read boring Canadian books in school.
Yeah, what do they make us read in what's a Canadian book?
Stone Angel.
I was gonna say the Stone Age.
Something by Mordecai Richler.
Fifth Business is
Yeah,
Business,
something,
that's one.
something by Timothy Finley, where you're like, oh my god, those
Just
covers are
the-
so 90s.
The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz.
Our non-American listeners have no idea, or our American listeners. Have no
All
idea
they're
what we're
hearing
talking
is like the Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
wah.
That's because there's not an American here to tell them.
Well, I think at the end of Tom Sawyer, they fake their own deaths or something.
I have no idea.
And then they walk in on their own funeral. I think I got that from a Wishbone episode.
And then they realize they're ghosts.
that's what
I
taught me.
love somebody had the best summary for Wishbone, which is it's seemingly a show that's like, hey, you should read these books. It's fun. But then they put a dog in it, so you're like, why would I read the book? There's no dog in the book version.
Yeah, a dog always plays the main character.
Wait. Doesn't Romeo and Juliet does it end with Wishbone dying?
What?
I think so, yeah. I know the Cyrano de Bergerac one, a woman kisses Wishbone.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
I showed you the
Wait.
opening sequence the other day.
Wishbone?
You don't know
Yeah,
what
what's
Wishbone
the
is?
story? Wishbone.
Oh.
It's a children's show.
Okay,
Yeah, basically
okay.
it's like adaptations of like famous public domain literary stuff, and the dog plays the main character.
Oh,
gimmick.
okay.
They did like a Sherlock Holmes. They do it
Wait,
all.
and that was like Skippy the Bush Kangaroo.
Don't you mean Sherlock Bones, April?
Yeah. What's Skippy the what now?
Skippy the Bush Kangaroo, I think. Skippy the
What?
Bush Kangaroo. It was like
Is
a
that a show?
Colin's like, didn't you watch The
Skippy.
Littlest Hobo?
Skippy.
He did
yeah.
watch The Littlest Hobo.
Littlest Hobo,
No, he did.
and Skippy was like the littlest hobo for Australia.
I know, I've never heard.
He's got a great look at the opening theme song on YouTube. I think he plays drums at one point. I might be misremembering.
Anyway, let's
so
start
Tom Sawyer,
summarizing
who
the
knows?
plot.
Back
here.
to LXG.
Again, I don't know if we need to do every scene, but
What public domain character could have like been the American person? I'm trying to think of like, because
Yeah.
basically all they wanted was a name people would recognize.
I guess.
And be like, oh yeah, Tom Sawyer, I know him. And because, like we were talking about, there's nothing really that defines him. They can
No.
do whatever they want with him.
Yeah, exactly.
As an American.
I don't think
Yeah.
was Tom Sawyer known for his gunplay.
No.
I
They're
don't
like,
shooting
oh my
ability.
god, it's the Connecticut Yankee who visited King Arthur's court.
Yeah, and then they bring Tom
It's a
Sawyer
Pilgrim
in,
from Pilgrim's
and
Progress.
he's like, I'm from the American.
It's like Secret
Service,
or something.
basically. It's like it's so James Bond. It's not even funny. He's the Jeffrey Wright character, basically, who's but he's like, I'm training, and then he
Felix Leiter.
Yeah, and then he becomes
In more ways than one.
a son figure to
Yeah, he's
Sean Connery.
Yeah, so Sean Connery. Well, it starts out with this big kind of what is it? Like a bank robbing scene. It is kind of like
Yeah,
the
it's a
Dark
tank
Knight in a
crashes
tank.
through- Yeah.
And it looks like they have
Mm-hmm.
the tank from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But this is like 1899, and I don't think it's supposed to exist because everybody's reacting to it like they don't know what the hell it is.
I
Like
guess
all
it's like alternate history because they've added steampunk.
Yeah, so this was, I think, the first time I'd ever heard of steampunk. I didn't know what it was. I
And the next day you showed up with like a monocle, a mustache, and a top hat. and like a backpack that like made steam but didn't do anything.
This movie is like 2003, right?
I'm Dr. Cogsworth von Piston Face.
Is steampunk still a thing?
It is
now it
still
is,
a thing.
but back when this movie came out, I was in high school. I had no idea what steampunk.
I didn't
Oh,
know.
I knew what steampunk was. Yeah.
They don't name it. I can't remember when the first time I heard that term, like steampunk.
I didn't hear it until like 10 years after this movie came out.
But it's just
that's
funny that it's funny that both this and Van Helsing that we watched
They're both steampunk.
last week are kind of considered steampunk. You know, Frankenstein had that. You know, he had that piston. He had steam coming out of his legs.
It's more of a design choice too. Like the car that they drive around later, that's
Yeah.
a very steampunky design.
Yeah, it's sort of like technology ahead of its time,
Yeah.
but the design wise, it looks
Is
like
of
it's
the time.
of the
kind
time.
of.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the steampunk aesthetic. I think it looks neat. It's used very, very well in one of my favorite shows, The Legend of Korra. And that show also has robots that look exactly like the ones in this movie. The steam-powered robots.
Oh yeah.
So I was very taken into that. But
Right. So, yeah, we open with this bank robbery scene. This like tank smashes into the Bank of England, and all these German soldiers get out, and we're introduced to the villain, who's called the Phantom. And
the opera.
I did not make the connection.
I
You
did.
did
'Cause
not? The mask and everything?
How many phantoms are there?
I think it was like halfway through the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, it's the Phantom of the Opera.
I mean, he
I
doesn't
got it.
really sing or swing down from anything, and the
No.
Phantom wasn't known for wearing like big furry coats either.
No, and he has this like his face is all burned up, and he speaks in like a weird. His accent changes. It's like Russian, it's like German in some scenes. It's all over the place.
Well, we find out.
Now we find out why. At one
Yeah,
point,
spoiler
and
alert.
at one point, when he's speaking, it all like dawned on me.
It clicked for Colin.
And I said, "Oh my God, we just watched Van Helsing. I know who this is. I recognize that
wait,
accent."
don't spoil it. So
I won't.
a big chase. You see all the cool practical stuff. Tanks smashing through walls. Villainy is afoot.
Yeah, and I have to say, okay, this is one of my favorite things. And again, it's sort of coming off of Van Helsing, but I appreciated the practical work. I appreciated they kind
Lots
of knew
of miniatures.
There is lots of miniatures, and I really like that. And they didn't. In some places, they pushed the CG way beyond what they were capable of. Like when we get to the end with the
buildings falling scene.
no, the Dr.
Dr.
Jekyll, Mr. Hyde fight with that big sort of red Hulk thing. But I appreciated that they kind of stuck to practical stuff when they could, and I think it works most of the time.
That's all I'm saying.
I'll say that.
Okay, so we got to get to the assembling of the League. So somebody, mysterious man named M, is assembling a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. For what reason? To stop World War III.
Yeah, so this Phantom guy basically wants to start a world war between Germany.
Yeah, not World War III. It would be World War I.
At that
1999.
Yeah, why did I think World War III? Did they say that at some point?
No. They just said a world war.
War III. That is, if World War I and World War II happened.
Yeah, between now and then.
Yeah.
World War III back in... No, never mind.
Anyway, so
back
they
in-
get everybody, and we introduced all the members of the team, right?
Well, we first get to meet Sean Connery in Kenya.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scene of them like he gets attacked in Kenya, and he does like a really cool like action sequence where he beats
I
everybody
took
up
some
because he's just
really funny stills
the
of his
best.
stuntman, who looks like Burt Reynolds in the scene.
Yeah,
He
I was
does.
also looking at the stuntman.
Sean Connery he's jumping and flipping and like taking hits and landing on the ground. His bones would shatter into dust.
wasn't really him.
There is no way he could be taking those hits.
Colin's like pacing back and forth, being like, "How did Sean Connery do those things?"
There's
Sean
no
Connery was
way.
like, "You have to make me look like I'm invincible."
I'm just I'm not listening to a girl and I'm not losing a fight.
Yeah. Oh my God. When Mina Harker comes in, Sean Connery has the most sexist line. He's like,
Look at that whore.
No, what did he say? He's like, I hope. He said something like, I hope that's Mr. Harker's maid or something like that. He was like, I hope that. He was like, that better not be Dr. Harker.
Right. They're expecting Jonathan Harker to show up, and then she shows up instead. And he's like, you might be like, you better be the message boy or something like that.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like you.
It's like, no, she's a scientist and she's joining the team.
Yeah, and she's not revealed to be a vampire until later in an action sequence. And this lady, Nikita, I don't know.
Peter Wilson.
Yes, she played Nikita in a television series. Is
Ooh,
that
the
based?
Canadian TV show? Speaking of CanCon.
Is that based on La Femme Nikita?
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it was shot in Toronto.
All I remember was the credits featured her walking away from like a green screen explosion, and it was like in every credit.
That sounds familiar to me too.
I have a feeling when I was working on
you work on it,
RoboCop,
Colin?
that was on TV at the same time.
It was like mid-90s.
Something like that, yeah.
But she's really good in this movie. I really like her. She's very like prim and proper, but like, and then like lashes out like a hell beast as she is because she's a vampire.
I was going to say, in the comic, she is very sort of prim and proper, and although she's big,
But she loves to have sex.
no, she has like a scarf on that she always covers her neck with. So, and then eventually it's revealed that she's got like a vampire.
But does she vamp
I was going to
out?
say vampire holes. No, I don't think she's a vampire in the comic book.
So she's
No,
just
I don't
a
think she
scientist.
is. Yeah.
I think she's just a scientist, and she sort of befriends Alan Quatermain. They kind of become lovers in the book. Blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
does she have a previous relationship with Dorian Gray like she does in this
Nope.
movie?
I don't
Dorian
think
Gray is not in the comic.
Yeah, he's not in the comic book.
Oh.
At least not in the first one or second one.
But we're also introduced to the Invisible Man.
Rodney Skinner,
It was pretty funny, and I really liked the special effects of him being invisible. I'm like, how did they do that?
April, if you want your mind blown, I got a little Universal horror film to show you called The Invisible Man.
It's got
How
a
do
book
they do
hanging from
that?
string.
But a lot of times was really funny where they established that he puts powder on his face, and then later it's just the actor with white.
It
powder.
goes
Come
back
on,
and forth.
guys.
So the continuity in this movie is so funny because he's putting
way cooler if he was like wrapped in bandages or something like that.
Yeah, but he has this big tin of grease paint that he puts on his face, but he only puts it on the front of the face and gets a little bit on his ears. And then in the very next scene, they're driving in a car, and you could just tell they're just like, all right, he's just got white makeup all over his entire head. And then the very next scene after that, he's back to just having it on the front of his face and his ears. So it's just like,
I feel like they couldn't do the bandages due to copyright reasons because it would be too
yeah.
close to
Probably.
the
That's right.
Universal version.
Yeah. And
But
as
in the
we
comics,
said,
he wears bandages.
Invisible
Yeah.
Man was not in public domain at this point.
yeah, especially with them having to change the name, I can guarantee you that's why. It's like, nope, that's a visual
He
trademark.
was also like not in the movie a lot. He disappears for a
well, he is.
April, spoiler, he's in the whole movie. You just don't see him.
Oh, I guess that's a good point. But he wasn't saying anything, so
I mean, this is why the movie got an X. There's so much invisible nudity in
Okay,
it.
so we already talked about Captain Nemo a little bit, but Captain Nemo might be one of my favorite members of the
he's
league.
great.
He has such like dignity.
Yeah.
And he's not playing it over the top like the other
No,
actors
not at
are,
all.
but it fits. You need a straight guy in there, you know.
He's so cool. I just wish the movie had him in more,
And what's the name of this actor? Something Shaw.
Well, we're going to say it wrong. Yeah.
It's like Nasiruddin Shah.
Yes.
Who is a major, according to IMDb, Indian actor, having appeared in 236 things, and I've never heard his name before because, us Westerners, we don't know anything about Indian cinema.
Yeah, but you watched tons of Bollywood movies.
Yeah, but it's a name that, I don't know, it just never came up. He's been in stuff that I've seen, but not like starring role.
Right.
Like Amitabh Bachchan would be, or
I think
stuff like that.
there was a story where he had gone out with the cast or something like that to a restaurant where they were shooting. I don't know if it was like Czech Republic or something like that. And the restaurant, I think it was to an Indian restaurant, and the restaurateur like recognized him, moved them to the best table, and like served them all himself. And like he was
they
like,
don't
this
give
big
a shit
star.
about Sean Connery, but this guy.
Like, whatever. Who the fuck is that old?
when Peter played that Bollywood film at Midnight Madness, the actors came out with us afterwards, and they kept being stopped, and we were in like the shittiest pizza joint around the corner from the theater, and actors kept like coming up to the co-star of the film, and they were like, "Can we have your picture, please?" She's like, "Oh yeah, sure." She was very nice. I looked online afterwards. She had like 8 million followers.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
What's she doing with you guys?
Yeah, in the corner of like, of the shittiest pizza joint in town.
Midnight Madness. Remember
Just goes
that?
to show that if you're an Indian actor, don't care about America because they don't care about you.
Yeah. You have like 2 fans.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think that wraps up the league, but we haven't mentioned.
Sorry,
who-
it makes me sound like I am anti-Indian acting. I am not.
No.
I'm very pro. We're just dumb. That's what I mean.
Okay, so
And
M.
also, there's
M.
so few of us
We
compared to India.
We haven't talked about M yet. Who plays M, you guys?
Oh,
my
it's
God.
my favorite actor. Hey, wait, we got to pick some favorite stuff. Did somebody say special effects?
I
What
did.
you
I said
call it?
I said the miniatures.
Okay.
I like Captain Nemo, but you know what my favorite thing is? Captain Nemo's ship.
The Nautilus.
Yep.
Because it looks so cool. I
And
know
it can
that
also
like when
shapeshift.
yeah, so when it's like the exterior, it's usually a CGI weird thing, but those interiors look fantastic. They,
Oh no,
Yeah.
I mean that it can get into like the Venice Canal,
Well,
which
that-
cannot
but-
fit a ship.
That is
Yeah.
so funny. So this thing is like its first reveal. It looks like the size of an aircraft carrier, and then
It is.
in the very next scene, it's scooting through the Venice canals. Like there is no way in hell.
They had such beautiful set design in this and such attention to detail.
You should see the comic. The Nautilus design is amazing in that.
But like you really feel like you're inside like the hold of a ship, but it's also like a beautiful
Very
like
ornate
hotel
and-
kind of.
Yeah, it's like a very kind of.
I loved it. Anyway, we got to go back to M. Okay, who shows up in this movie?
Richard
out of
Roxburgh.
nowhere. Richard Roxburgh.
You're like,
Did
no
you guys like
way.
jump to your feet and you're like, yes,
Honestly,
Dracula himself.
I think I might love Richard Roxburgh now.
I don't know.
I've seen him in 3 movies this year. I didn't even know who he was before.
What was the third one?
I watched Mission Impossible 2.
Okay, I've only
recently.
seen him in 2 movies in my life, and 2 of them were in the past 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
it was like this and Van Helsing back to back.
So he plays Guy, who is rounding up the league, who he's like British gentleman. M.
This is probably like a nod to Bond and M.
Yeah. Can we just like talk about who he really is?
Yes, because he's actually Moriarty.
Yeah. Well, I like freaked out when that happened. But I was like, oh, he's the Phantom character, and that's revealed that he.
Yeah, that's
like,
the big reveal.
Yeah, he set up this whole thing because he's secretly evil, but the real reveal at the end is, I'm Dr. Moriarty. I was like, what? We got Moriarty up in here.
But what traits did he do that were then Moriarty-esque?
I don't know. To be
He
honest,
fell over a waterfall.
the downside of this character is he's kind of, I don't know what he is, and it's not a big enough of a performance. Like he can't match the Dracula performance in Van Helsing.
I mean, nobody can.
The thing is, when he's doing that, the Phantom voice, when in the one sort of encounter with Sean Connery in Venice, and he's doing the voice, I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Oh my God, that's like his Dracula accent. That's Richard Roxburgh.
He heard it because you can't tell it's him when he's wearing the mask.
No, but you hear the accent, yeah, and then he like pulls it off and he reveals that it's actually M.
But like the real thing that he's after, because he was like, well, I wouldn't be sad if there was another world war, then I'd be happy. But what he really wants is to steal everyone's special powers.
It's kind of like the plot of an X-Men movie.
Totally.
Where he steals the Invisible Man formula, he steals the Mr. Hyde formula, he steals the plans for the Nautilus, and then what else?
He gets to get
He takes-
Mina's blood.
Yeah, he takes Mina's blood. So he wants an army of vampires, Hydes,
And Invisible Men.
Invisible Men.
We haven't even talked about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde yet.
Oh, that's
Okay,
right.
okay. This podcast is not going to be about scenes. It's
You
going to be
see-
about characters.
You see, Justin, this is why we
Too-
need structure.
No. We're going to just have to go through each character because we can't go through the plot because there's too much. So, who plays Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? It is
Jason Fleming.
Jason Fleming.
Jason Fleming, yeah. It's the poor man's Vision. Who plays the Vision again?
Paul Bettany.
Bettany. Well, I
Bettany,
just
yeah.
found out that he was in X-Men First Class as Azazel,
Yeah.
red guy.
Yeah. So this scene, speaking of Van Helsing again, we open up in Paris.
Yeah.
And they're chasing Mr. Hyde. What?
I was trying to make music. The scene from Van Helsing.
But I don't know how they end up getting him, but he ends up in chains at the bottom of the Nautilus. Dr. or Mr. Hyde.
Well, they set a trap for him, and Sean Connery kind of leads him to it, but it's very weird. It's a very jarring kind of cut. All of a sudden, you're in like Paris, and it's sort of implied that he's responsible for the murders of the Rue Morgue. And I think that is something that they mentioned in the comic books.
So instead of being Jack the Ripper, he's...
Yeah.
I don't know what Rue Morgue is.
It was like a Hercule Poirot novel.
No, Rue Morgue is Edgar Allan Poe, and it's revealed in that it's a gorilla that's committing the murders.
Wait, but wasn't it... No, it wasn't Hercule Poirot.
It wasn't. Hercule Poirot is Agatha Christie.
That's right. What was Edgar Allan Poe's guy?
It's another guy. He's like one of the first detectives, but he doesn't get trotted out that often. I feel like he does appear in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as his character.
He might. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. C. Auguste Dupin is his name.
Auguste Dupin. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a gorilla, the Mr. Hyde design is very ape-like. He's very top-heavy and hulking, and he's like kind of like grunting a little bit. They went that way, and I think it works. And I had because I was like, this isn't a CGI Mr. Hyde.
No.
It's like a suit, but it's been also maybe. Did they use forced perspective?
I think it's forced perspective to make him look bigger compared to the other characters, but it's basically Jason Fleming in a suit. Like he's standing. You see it all the time now with like Comic-Con guys where they dress up as the Hulk and they make these insane, huge costumes where they're sort of standing inside on stilts and they have like arm extensions and stuff like that.
And maybe even
they could do the thing. I mean, Colin would know that like you shoot him like as a plate and you kind of like rotoscope him and then just kind of blow him up bigger a little bit.
Yeah, so he's sort of hulking size-wise over the other characters, but when you see him on his own, it's basically just him in an animatronic suit. Which is actually, it's pretty neat. He's got these like skinny little legs, which are really funny.
I love the practical effects. See, back then, and I have to say back then, when this was 2003, practical was just used way more. That would never happen now.
I feel like Steve Norrington probably had a hand in this stuff as well because he was a special effects guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which I think he's gone back to now. Like he's gone back to making models and miniatures.
There is like a weird
like
thing that happens when he's changing back and forth. Like, there's like 3 in-betweens.
Yeah.
And you see it a couple times.
Well, they couldn't. I think it was this restriction of the budget and VFX at the time. Like they couldn't show any kind of detailed transformation. So it's pretty much like a photographer's flash.
If American Werewolf in Paris can do it, why can't?
Well, did they do the transition in CG? I can't remember.
No, what in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
No, in American
Werewolf in Paris. It's all CG transformation.
Yeah. What year was that?
Well, maybe they saw that and they're like, all right, we're not going to do that.
But I like this character. See, this is what I like about this movie. They gave everyone a character, and some critics might disagree that it's too much character development.
Some critics. I'm looking at you, Pauline Kael.
I think
do not think
Jonathan Rosenbaum
in your grave.
Jonathan Rosenbaum gave this a really bad review, if you can imagine.
That's shocking. No one.
But
what
so
did Rex Reed
he
think?
really. I mean, it's the typical Jekyll and Hyde story. He's trying to to battle these 2 versions of himself, but there's just mirrors everywhere he looks, and his other version talks to him. Which is a really cute touch. It is kind of weird where it's like he kind of like he has the hots for Mina, and it's like a little uncomfortable, but that's okay. And he's like, I'm never gonna take it again. I'm never taking this serum again. He's tortured. He's got demons.
Yeah, I like that aspect of his character, and I do. I do like how they kind of slowed down, especially to build the relationship between Sean Connery and Tom Sawyer. And
this is all happening on the ship.
There was a lot of breathers that I really appreciated, as opposed to Van Helsing, where it was just nonstop.
It was just go. And you're like, these characters don't even know each other, and now we're supposed to believe that they're sad when each other gets killed or whatever. But yeah, so the Tom Sawyer Sean Connery thing is the father figure thing, and Tom Sawyer needs to learn how to shoot, and he teaches him how to shoot, and of course his little lesson comes back at the end. You know, it's very simple, but it's good storytelling. You know, when you don't have that, you really notice it's not there.
Yeah, you can't substitute it for action scenes.
No,
because,
maybe
oh my
it was
God.
a little too much because there are so many characters. We haven't talked about Stuart Townsend yet.
Oh, Dorian Gray himself.
Stuart Townsend was in Queen of the Damned. He played the vampire Lestat, which is a movie that I like. I grew up watching a lot. And he's actually...
April refuses to let us do an episode about it. She's like, I just don't think there's enough there.
Oh, there's
you
enough.
just don't want us to make
We don't
fun
want to
of
tear
it.
your childhood apart.
But he is pretty good in this movie.
He's pretty good.
He's chewing the scenery a lot.
He kind of is. But he's got the right look for it. You know, he was supposed to be Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
Yes, he's going to be known for that.
I know.
Aragorn and a not very good Lestat. Now who knows where he is?
Oh, Dorian Gray. What? So Dorian Gray, you know,
I'm waiting for the Dorian Gray spin-off movie.
yeah, they got to amp it up for this movie. So he's he's Mina Harker's ex-lover, and also he's pretty much immortal now. So, you know, the Phantom and his troops burst into, you know, his hideaway or whatever, and they shoot him up. And it's just like Wolverine. One of the guys pulls his shirt off, and you can see like the bullet wounds healing.
Which is kind of a funny idea. That wasn't in the original story, obviously.
No, this character wasn't in.
No, I meant like the portrait of Dorian Gray. He wasn't like, oh, I can
Oh,
get
no,
stabbed,
no.
and you get okay.
No, he just stays young forever, pretty
Right,
much. And then so that was a funny scene. Speaking of continuity issues, like his whole suit gets shot up, and then literally, I don't know, a shot or two later, where he meets the other members of the League, his suit is perfectly immaculate.
Well,
again.
he was wearing the suit in the portrait too, Colin.
So his suit is immortal as well.
It's the incredible.
So if he gets naked, does the suit like come back onto him?
It's the incredible ice cream suit.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
But what happens is,
The picture of Dorian Gray's suit.
yeah.
What if they should?
I should have painted myself nude. Oh wait, no, that would have been bad because then I would have always been nude.
But yeah,
Yeah.
they should do a spin-off movie where it's told from the perspective of the suit.
Well, there's a very cute little scene where Dorian Gray is plucking his eyebrows.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's like, of course, he's
Yeah.
super vain. You know, he plays him very fey, which is perfect for this character.
He's a bit of a dandy.
But no, of course he's not gay because he had a girlfriend, right? He makes out with Mina Harker. But they clearly have, like, because she doesn't really have character development. Her story is she had this relationship with Dorian Gray and he broke her heart, which is kind of a lame story for a woman of science who's also a cool ass vampire, but whatever.
Yeah, I was waiting. Oh yeah, I said, why don't they get Marie Curie and it's like a scientist? And then April was like, that's because she's a real person.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
But so Stuart Townsend, i.e. Dorian Gray, actually is a bad guy. He does a switcheroo, and he was working for M the whole time.
I think M was kind of blackmailing him because he had his picture.
Oh, I wondered what the deal with that
Yeah,
was.
it was wrapped up, and he said, I'll give it back to you because if Dorian Gray sees his picture, the picture ages as he's supposed to, and whenever he sees the picture, then he like dies. He ages like in...
Yeah, which later Mina shows it to him. Why didn't he just close his eyes?
Dunno.
Because he's always wanted to see it.
He couldn't help it, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
It'd make more sense if someone was like holding his eyes open or something.
Well, she tricked him. She said, it's a mirror. And he's like, oh, let me look at myself. Oh, God, no.
Yeah. And also, did we mention that Ishmael's in this movie?
Yeah, so
Favorite character.
when the Nautilus like first rises and they're like, Nemo says, oh, this is my second mate. He says, call me Ishmael. I'm like, oh, God. But he's murdered by Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray steals all the things and then escapes in like an escape pod. It's like this weird little buzzsaw looking thing with like a...
looks kind of neat, actually.
Yeah, it's weird. It's got like a kind of glass dome on it, but it doesn't go under the water. It's like a propeller.
Floats.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, and also my favorite line is, okay, wait. So when they're getting double crossed, they leave behind a record, a phonograph,
Like a phonograph.
which is really funny. So they're like, play this, and so the director had this idea. So while they're listening to this, I don't just want shots of them listening. I want to see it visually. So he shot M and Dorian Gray saying what's on the record, but making it look like an old movie.
Yeah, so it's all stuttery.
Like a Lumiere Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Even though there was no sync sound, but whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's like a little
There was an artistic
stylistic flourish.
I
yeah.
liked it. And then, of course, it's revealed that they left a bomb on the Nautilus, and Dorian Gray says, "Bon voyage." My favorite line of the movie.
Favorite line of the movie.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
No, it's the way he
As opposed
says
to
it.
like, I thought I was gonna get. What does Dorian Gray say when he stakes?
Oh, he's like, I always wanted to nail you.
But I didn't think it'd be
it would be literally.
He gets all the good lines.
Well, I think my favorite thing of this movie is Dr. Jekyll saves the day, or Mr. Hyde saves the day.
Oh, what, in the
And
submarine?
as he does it, he looks in the reflection, and like Jason Fleming, and like gives them a nod, like "good job." There's like a cut to Mr. Hyde,
Wait.
and he's so happy.
Was it at the end or?
No, that's in the middle.
No, that's
Okay.
That's in the middle.
So it's
when
at
he
the
saves the boat from the bombs.
Yeah, so he goes in. Yeah, the bomb blows up on the Nautilus, and then he kind of goes into the engine room or something and saves all the sailors. And
Yeah, because funny, because like Captain Nemo is like, you got to seal those decks, and Ishmael or whatever is like, there's hundreds of men down there, and he's like, we have to do it for the greater good. And then Mr. Hyde or Mr. Jekyll is like, I'll save them, and he does. He saves everyone, and no one dies.
it's wonderful. And at one point,
Yeah, April had like one tear rolling down her cheek.
she was clapping and standing.
What was missing from this movie was the end where Sean Connery like appears in the clouds and looks down at the people.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
We almost got that. Hello, did you see the ending?
Then he reaches down and then he slaps Mina Harker.
Oh no,
Sean Connery.
So that's like the thing.
You like to slap
the
women,
big
is what
scene
I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, in the face. So that's the thing in the middle, and then there's the scene in Venice where all the buildings are falling, and it's like it looks terrible. And
Oh no, I think we're
that-
going in the wrong order. That came before all the bombs in the Nautilus.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
We see.
Well, it looked bad. But
See,
I'm
you make
sorry.
fun of me when I write down a
can't-
structure and blah blah
gotta
blah,
just
and then
keep going.
and then here we are. We're just at a random scene somewhere.
Okay, so I want to talk about the last scene because it reminded me of Inception. Wasn't it funny?
Well, when they go to the snow base in Mongolia,
They're all wearing snow camo, only it's old-timey snow camo,
Yeah,
and they
it
go
does.
to a big base that looks exactly like the base in the third act of Inception.
it doesn't look like that, but
It so does. It does.
Do you say Christopher Nolan's just like a big League of Extraordinary Gentlemen fan, and that's what he's dreaming
yeah,
about at night?
he's just there with like a notepad and he's furiously jotting down notes. Like,
Of
yes,
course.
yes.
I'll make sure Stephen Norrington never works again.
Sean Connery, Christopher Nolan, I got a proposition for you. There's a really funny video online where I think it's in London and it's at the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen premiere. And it's like Sean Connery's just sort of going around to the press, like doing interviews and stuff. And this one press guy is like, Sean, like, big fan. I heard that you punched Stephen Norrington, the director, in the face on set. Is that true? And Sean Connery just instantly switches to like really nasty. He's super pissed at the guy, and
Still pissed.
well, he's just like, I don't know, taken aback by being asked something like that, and he, he's clearly not having it, and he's just like had enough. Like, and he's like, so was it a bad experience? And he's like, oh, not as bad as it is here sitting talking to someone like you.
Oh man, he's taking it out on the reporter.
Yeah, the reporter kind of like set him off. He was being a little like cheeky, but yeah, you can see him change in like a split second. Stephen Norton didn't even go to the premiere, and then they asked Connery, they go, oh, like, where's Stephen Norton, or where's the director at the premiere of his own movie? And he's like, check the local asylum.
Oh my god.
Like, they fucking hated one another. And there was one story I heard where they were walking off the Nautilus down a street, like all in kind of a line. And the director asked them to do it again. And Sean Connery got all pissed off. And then Steve Norrington said, for like 18 million, I don't think it's too much to ask for you to just like walk down the street again. And then that set Connery
It's too
off
much
on
for
set.
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree with
It's
the director.
true. It's like, come on, dude.
I know. Like, oh, anyway.
Earn your cash.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, let's bury him and dig him up again.
Oh, like they do at the end of this movie.
Wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves because first, See, the thing is, if I make fun of Colin for doing the structure, then now I have to be the structure man.
Exactly. You
That's
see,
how comedy works.
you've become what you hate.
No.
No.
I look in. I open the picture and it's a picture of Colin. I'm like, oh! They turn into a skeleton.
I'm there with like the scene acts and stuff like that.
Yeah. You're like sitting with the littlest hobo and that kangaroo you mentioned.
Skippy.
Okay, so what's the climax of this movie?
Well, they go to Mongolia, which is where...
Oh, that's where that snowy place was.
Yeah, which is where M's base is. They show up in the Nautilus. And then they kind of attack the base. And everyone, it's kind of like Van Helsing again, where everybody gets paired up with their sort of equal on the bad side. So you've got Dorian Gray fighting Mina Harker. Then you've got Tom Sawyer fighting the Invisible Man, who is... Wait, it's...
a different Invisible
Yeah,
Man.
It's a different one,
It's
yeah.
M's underling, who I don't even remember from other scenes in the movie.
So supposedly they changed the ending of this movie a lot. There was also supposed to be other vampires that they would be fighting as well, like vampire women.
What?
Yeah. They like did rotoscoping like at one point where Nina or somebody hits a woman in the face. I wonder if it was Sean Connery doing it and they're like, ooh, we can't have this.
So you saying there was more than one woman in this movie originally?
Yes, originally there was. All white people still, though. Actually, Nemo is not white. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's your theory. That didn't fit your narrative, did it?
But then Mr. Hyde is fighting a bigger Mr. Hyde.
Which is the same guy as the Invisible Guy. So it's M's underling. His name is Dante, who kind of looks like Tom Sizemore. He's the Invisible Man, I think.
No, I think that's a different... He can't be the Invisible Man and the big hulking guy.
Yeah,
That's
you're
got to be
right.
two different
I think it's
people.
just a bunch of different guys.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But it is the number 2 guy that becomes the red
Yeah, he
Hulk.
looks like a big red Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's, instead of like taking the one hit of the Hyde juice, he's like guzzling this entire like beaker of it.
Yeah,
And Hyde
he's,
is
like,
like,
Don't
big
drink
and
it
gross.
all.
Hyde is like, no, don't drink the whole thing.
It was very like... That's like something that would happen like in a superhero movie now. Like, you know, that thing? Let's have a bigger version of that thing.
Yeah,
fight our
like
friends.
Abomination and Hulk or something.
Or
like
the
that.
Iron Man one, the
Yeah.
bigger Iron Man, the bigger ship in Star Trek.
Well, that's like the Marvel kind of thing, right? Is that like every movie they just fight like the evil version of... It's the evil Ant-Man. It's the evil Black Panther.
Yeah,
It's kind
exactly.
of boring after a while.
Darn right it is.
Yeah, well, this one is like the guy guzzles this thing and turns into this big raging monster.
And he looks terrible.
It looks kind of hideous, and I think that's kind of the point. It almost looks...
He looks like a PS1 cutscene, though.
Yeah, it does. It's very strange. It has this weird kind of look or a filter over the lens or something like that. But it kind of looks like something from the comic book. But at the time, or they didn't have the money, it just looks weird. Thankfully, they didn't show him very much. But yeah, so he and Hyde have a big fight. Mina Harker kills Dorian Gray.
And it did look pretty cool when he turned to skeleton and then dust.
It looked
I mean,
like
I've seen better, but like...
It looked like Buffy the Vampire
Yeah,
Slayer.
it looked
Like,
it looked like a bad digital version of ending of Last Crusade, where the guy drinks from the wrong cup.
Yeah.
You know, that was practical. This looks like the digital version of that, and nowhere near as good.
At that point, Steve Norrington had left the film.
Sean Connery was directing. He's like, put some tracking markers on his face. We'll do it CG.
And like, there's a bit of a showdown between Moriarty and Sean Connery, Alan Quartermain.
Yeah.
And then Tom Sawyer comes in and he's like, "Oh,
He's got a knife
your
to his
friend
neck.
to die." And then so he just runs. He jumps out a window and just runs away. He's just running away.
He stabs Sean Connery and runs away, basically. And this sort of like comes back to you know,
the lesson.
him
earlier.
giving Tom Sawyer the shooting lesson. So
He's like, "Take your time."
take your time.
And then he shoots him. Oh, I was hoping he would come back in the sequel.
You never know. It's Moriarty.
Yeah,
He
it's
did,
true.
He did, fake his death before.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, Sean Connery was stabbed or shot or something. We don't really
Yeah.
know. It kind of happens off camera.
No, he was stabbed in the back by Moriarty.
Oh.
Yeah. And he dies.
So everyone lives except Alan Quartermain.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he kind of says,
Or does he?
he sort of says at the beginning, it's like earlier in the movie, they say like, Alan Quartermain, you're supposed to be immortal. And he says, witch doctor once blessed me because I saved his village. And Kenya won't let me die. So they take him back to Kenya and they bury him next to his son because it's sort of, I don't know, implied that he retired because his son died or something like that. I don't know.
Speaking of this graveyard, in one of the bad reviews I read, apparently several gravestones are misspelled.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, they couldn't put enough care into this movie to even spell the gravestones right.
They might be talking about Quatermain because sometimes it's spelled Quartermain and sometimes it's Quatermain. And I think the actual author spelled it differently.
Okay, so those reviewers, wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
It's time to get in that goof section of IMDb.
Is it really?
And you got to goof the goofs, April.
Yeah, I gotta de-goof the goofs.
You've got to.
Oh man,
You've got to unsolve this
you're
mystery.
Yeah, you're neutering poor Goofy. You gotta de-goof the goof.
So the movie ends with...
The movie ends with a bizarre sequence of a witch doctor doing a ceremony with like clouds moving really fast overhead, and that's what it ends on.
Yeah, well, it's like Sean Connery's grave. Tom Sawyer puts like his like
hat or
rifle,
something.
puts the rifle on the mound, and then the dirt starts trembling. It's like the end of like
Wasn't one of the Jasons?
Batman v Superman or something
it's
like
beefy.
that.
Yeah. Again, ripping
I was
off.
gonna say the end of Dungeons and Dragons, where they all go to heaven.
Yeah, what was the Jason movie where the guy digs up his corpse and then like
Well, that's at the beginning.
Jason
of
Lives?
The movie.
he stabs like
Part
a
seven?
metal pike through it and
He
then it
does
gets
that
struck
at the
by
beginning,
lightning.
not the end.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's Jason Lives.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think they're gonna have to do
Friday
that
the 13th,
in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Part
They
2.
dig up Sean Connery and stick a metal pipe.
Yeah,
in him.
there's gonna-
I just want to make sure he's dead.
That's just gonna be like this skeleton with like a mustache and beard and like a toupee, and then they're gonna stab it, and he's gonna come
Yeah,
back
it's,
to life.
it's Alex Trebek's children. They're like, I want to make sure they can never parody him again.
That was so weird. The two of them, rest in peace, the both of them, but the two of them dying like a week apart.
You know what they say, like couples, they usually go
It's true.
quickly after each other.
Shagged your mother, Trebek.
Used to watch those clips a lot when
love
I
them.
was in my youth. When I was a Ute. Okay, so that's the movie.
That's pretty much it.
Whoa, what a finale.
Wow.
A weird ending to a pretty fun movie.
Yeah. It's kind of entertaining. I
I
don't know.
wanted it to end with everyone like riding off into the sunset or something. Maybe a little more like Van Helsing.
They kind of did. They
but-
walked to the Nautilus
I guess,
into the sunset.
yeah.
I'm sure.
if
But
you-
I mean, if you're a fan of the movie or
dude,
the,
I totally recommend this movie. It was a good time.
I would say if you're a fan of the comic book, you're going to be very, very disappointed.
Because it's not that. But if you're a fan of like Indiana Jones, The Mummy,
Van Helsing.
yeah, like fun kind of action adventures with like a little bit of a supernatural aspect to it. This is probably as best as you can get.
Really?
Yeah, look at all these characters. You're not going to get any of these characters in another movie. There's
I could
so
write
many-
one. They're all public domain.
so
I'm
many
going to write one tomorrow.
characters. Okay, it's no Indiana Jones, but like it was fun and it was a good
Listen,
time.
April thought that Thinner was the best Stephen King adaptation, and she thinks League of
I stand
Extraordinary
by that.
Gentlemen is the best pulp movie ever made.
Yeah. It's better than Indiana Jones. I'm just saying.
Followed by High Road to China, the Tom Selleck Indiana Jones ripoff.
Well, I haven't
And
seen that one.
Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold.
City of Gold. Yeah, that's right. The Patrick Swayze version.
It's available to rent on iTunes and many other places.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I got a nice restoration.
Nice restoration.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize it was a restoration.
It was pretty clean looking, so it's a nice Blu-ray quality.
Looked great.
When I watch movies from 2003, I want them to look like Grindhouse Prince.
But no, it was great. Justin, you would recommend this?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good cheesy fun time.
Well, thank you again to Riza, possibly Riza.
Riza.
That was a really fun
Riza.
pick and a very fun, a good tribute to
I was
Sean
so
Connery.
happy when I saw this. I absolutely dread these like listener requests, and when
Hey, they're not all going to be the last.
I know, but
Eagle
you
Scout
showed me that
or,
list, and I was so happy it was League of Extraordinary. Oh my god, yeah. Let's do that.
It's just so funny how similar it is to Van Helsing. But watch this
so
one.
much
Don't
better.
watch Van Helsing.
So much better.
And if you want to email the podcast, we're at no such thing as a bad movie at gmail.com. You can tweet at us at no such thing pod. We're also on patreon.com/no such thing as a bad movie. If you're on the $2 level or above, you could be put into the next draw for the next bad movie lottery, which is happening I think it's going to be every 6 episodes now. So every couple months, 3 months or so. And you don't need to submit anything if I'm keeping a track of all the donors. So if you win, I'll let you know. And if you're at the $5 level or above, get a little bonus episode every 2 weeks. And this week we went to a bad movie classic, supposedly a supposed classic, called Birdemic,
that we'd never seen before.
Yeah, so that's coming out next week. And if you want to tweet at me or check me out on Instagram, I'm at April at Mansky.
You can follow me at DeClueJ, DECLOUX, the letter J. I'm also on Letterboxd, Justin DeClue, or you can listen to me every week on the Base Video Podcast and the Important Cinema Club.
How do you fit all that in? You're like the disclaimer guy at the end of commercials.
Yeah, I'm the Micro Machines guy. Go listen to all the podcasts because I have a lot of podcasts. You got to listen to it now. Van Helsing is better than League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Justin saying it right now.
And Gold Ninja Video too.
Yeah. Oh, Gold Ninja Video.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA. That's all I can fit in. Not as fast.
That's right.
Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there and have a happy November. And
the classic "Have a Happy November."
It's like 23 degrees here.
It's really warm in where we live. Right now,
global warming.
It's amazing. Oh.
Why didn't Birdemic warn us? I'm April. I'm April Admansky.
I'm Justin DeClue.
I'm Colin Connery.
And remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie. R.I.P. Sean Connery and Alex Trebek. Didn't have anything to do with this episode, but Alex Trebek, fellow Canadian.